in the end, too many people to fit into the hall at Grey College. So we had to, make arrangements for extra chairs outside of the hall for all of the people to be able to sit there.
And I just felt an amazing peace when I walked into the hall, and the amount of people that was there. I don't think I took everything in. It was just too much. But afterwards, when you think about it, it was wonderful, and it was amazing, and it was an amazing sermon that day.
We had so many decisions to make. Should we cremate Hansie? Should we bury him? In the end, we decided that the way that Hansie would have liked it would to be cremated, that the funeral service would be at Grey College, and that Pastor Dave Hooper and Peter Pollock and Mr. Johan Volstedt would be the main speakers at the funeral service.
We just want to welcome the family especially, and we, your friends, want to put our arms around you this afternoon. We want to forget for a moment the glare of the cameras and the people, and that the whole nation is watching, because your pain needs to be our pain today.
It is a great privilege to stand here and to pay tribute to my friend. I think for many years we were perhaps like an older brother and a younger brother, even a father and a son. This hall is so full of the memories of Hansie that it makes it almost unbearable to stand here and address you. Hansie was the school captain of the school. You'll see his name there in 1987. He was the rugby captain in 1987, the cricket captain in 1987. He received full colours for academics in 1987. His name is also on the board at the back for the AK Volstedt medal in 87, presented to the matric boy who is the most versatile and also has the best leadership qualities. So he's all around us in this hall, at the back, there, on the sides. His cricket cap, in which he made 100 for South Africa, and his shirt is here, also in our sport pavilion. So this, to Hansie and to all of us who loved him, is a very special place. Mooi loop ou Hansman, my maat. Ons sal vir jou baie mis.
We certainly felt that Grey College had meant such a lot to Hansie throughout his life, that having the service there would be the right way for him, to go home as well. And being at the funeral service was also a tremendous experience. Of course it was sad, and of course it was difficult, but it was great to see so many friends, so many family members, and Hansie's teammates as well. And they pitched up there in their South African jackets, and Sean Pollock and Bob Wilmer and Alan Donald flew from England. It cost them a fortune to get there, because they had to make such short notice bookings, but they flew all the way, and that really meant a lot to us.
I'm just glad, as I said to you, I'm glad I had the chat with him, but I'm even more glad that I was there to be there. And when I was told I must wear my green blazer, I think that made a serious statement. He really made a serious statement. Of all the things that happened before that, and wearing our blazers that day, I think really rammed down a throat that the guys were right behind H in those days, and backed him up. So.
We have come to pay respects to Hansie Cronje, an outstanding leader, an accomplished cricketer and friend. But like so many of my teammates here today, I want to say thank you to Hansie for being so much more than just that. Hansie touched each and every one of our lives with his friendship, his advice and encouragement, his inspiring mind, competitive nature, and good humor. He knew how to connect with people, whether it be statesmen or children. He knew how to make people laugh. He was an inspiration to others. He took the trouble of understanding where his teammates came from, and he dealt with our egos and our ambitions to ensure that he got the best out of us. He took responsibility where others might not have. Hansie had so many gifts, and as a team we were proud to have served under his leadership and honored to have been his friend.
And he took this country to the top. The statistics speak for themselves. That is the one beautiful thing about statistics. They are indelibly written for all time and can never be taken away. 71% of his one days, he led this country to victory. He and the team. Do you know that that statistic actually puts you amongst the greatest teams of all time? He won 51% of his test matches. He was out there leading from the front. And the statistics alone will tell us and provide for us a testimony of greatness. Times were tough. Life was hard. But Hansie reaffirmed the Lord Jesus Christ in his life. It was uphill. It was into the wind. The wicket was dead. The ball was soft. The bowlers were tired. Support was scarce. But Hansie put his hand on the plough. Looking back was not an option. It never was an option for Hansie. Jesus never promises us that it will be easy, but I will be with you. There was a mountain to climb, and typically Hansie Cronje determined to climb that mountain. Last Saturday, Hansie made alternative arrangements to get home. Ironically enough, he did in fact arrive home on top of that mountain.
To me, the Peter Pollock speech at the funeral was so tremendous because it was such a good summary of Hansie's life. But the biggest surprise to all of us was Bertha. She stood up at the funeral and said she wanted to say something as well. And it was definitely by far the bravest 2-minute speech I've ever heard in my life.
That day Hansie died, I actually went for a walk on the beach, Outeniqua Beach, where Hansie and I used to go often in the times after the King Commission, because that was like a secluded piece of beach where we walked and had a picnic, and I just sat there and I felt in my spirit that I need to say something, and I really didn't know whether I'll be able to and what I need to say, because I mean, what do you say and how can I ever express in words any of the feelings, and the feeling just it grew stronger in my heart that I wanted to say something. I wanted to say something for Hansie. And as we drove from here to Bloemfontein, it was Kate and John T in one car, and my mum and my dad and myself in the other car. I just knew that I had to say something, and I didn't know what. And it was too much to think what. And then I met with Follies to talk about the funeral arrangements and how it's going to work. And I just said to him, I think I might want to say something. And he said to me, well, he'll look at me, and if I can just go like this if I don't feel up to it. And so we had this agreement, if I can't, I'll just shake my head, and then he'll just end off. And I just had that peace, as I say, as I walked in there, and I knew I had to say something.
For the past 2 years, I wanted to tell the world. I wanted to shout it out. I wanted to explain to people that even though Hansie made a mistake, he was still the same Hansie, a kind and loving husband, a genuine friend, and an honourable man. Over the last couple of days, I've come to the wonderful realization that actually nobody forgot the special qualities I knew he had. Daarom wil ek vandag vir my skoonpa en skoonma dankie sê vir die besondere mens wat hulle groot gemaak het. Dit was 'n voorreg om met hom getroud te wees.
When she had finished that, everybody just stood up spontaneously and applauded. I mean, I've never heard anybody applaud anyone at a funeral like that before. I don't think there could have been a better way to have Hansie's funeral service. the thing we wanted more than anything else was for God to be glorified, because we felt that Hansie had lived a life where he wanted to give God the glory. Yes, he made mistakes, but I think in the end Hansie really loved God, and we certainly wanted the funeral service to portray that as well. One of the great hymns that we as a family really loved is "Guide Me, O Thou Great Jehovah," in the Bread of Heaven, that was sung next to the rugby grounds in Wales. So we sang this hymn at Hansie's funeral service as well. But incredibly, 3 days after his funeral service, the South African rugby side played against Wales in Bloemfontein. So my dad and me were invited to go and watch the rugby match. And we got to the Free State Stadium and it was packed out. I think it takes about 40 or so thousand people. It was a full house, and it was tremendous to hear this Welsh choir sing Bread of Heaven at the start of the match, and the Welsh national anthem along with the South African national anthem. And then there was a minute's silence at the ground. And
ladies and gentlemen, before we start the business of this next match, I'd like to welcome back to we will observe a moment of silence in memory of a man who was a remarkable cricketer. He was an inspirational leader and a man who served his country and his province of Free State with pride and with distinction. Ladies and gentlemen, Hans Cronje.
there was a minute of silence, and I think a few seconds after the crowd grew silent, they just shouted, "Hansie, Hansie, Hansie."
Well, the crowd's starting to chant Hansie, Hansie, in a great tribute to the man.
Me and my dad just stood there and we just cried, we just wept. But it was just so great to again see the tremendous public support for Hansie.
He dreamed about having a bus to transport the athletes, because transportation is difficult. You can't just get an ordinary bus because it doesn't have a lift for the wheelchairs. So it's very difficult. You need adapted transportation. And he dreamed of having a bus. And after he died, a lot of people gave money to, they started a trust fund, the Hansie Cronje Trust Fund, and a lot of people give money to that trust fund. And they also have a golf day at Fan Court every year, the Hansie Cronje Memorial Golf Day. And at that golf day, they always raise money for disabled sport. And we actually bought, about a year after he died, we bought a bus, which is called the Hansie Cronje bus. We still have one dream that's not fulfilled, and that is to have an indoor center where disabled athletes can play table tennis and basketball. So that's the one dream that he had that's not fulfilled yet, but we're still working on it, and we like to fulfill that dream as well.
It was my privilege to be involved with him, and you know, I can't say more than that. And certainly I'll go to my grave. He was one of the great experiences of my life. You know, he was almost like a son to me, and it was one thing being involved in cricket and being involved with a lot of very nice people in cricket, but Hansie was different, and I think that there's a far bigger story in this whole thing, a story that I don't even understand, but I certainly wouldn't dare to try and sum it up in one sentence. It's far bigger than that.
Hans taught us to never to point fingers towards others, and that was a great lesson he taught us as a family, and we respect him for what he went through.
Hansie's life and the cricket and Hansie as a person pale into insignificance to me as he came to know the Lord Jesus Christ in a meaningful relationship. He taught me forgiveness. I think he taught the world forgiveness. I never heard him say one bad word about anybody, even after the King Commission, even the way he is treated by South African cricket and the public. He never said one bad word about anybody. He was an amazing man that touched the lives of many people.
I think about Hansie a lot. I've got pictures on my wall of him. I'll never forget us sitting in the Lord's change room having a beer together after a victory. I've got a cigar in my mouth and we're having a beer together. That's a picture that sits on my wall. I look at it regularly and I think about the good stuff, about the good times and about what he offered me as a player, and we'll always remember him as that. So they're good. I have fond memories of Hansie Cronje.
A Christian can also make mistakes, but making a mistake is one thing, but standing up after that is perhaps the most important thing, is that you've got to get up and you can't walk the road without the Lord. And I think that is what Hansie did. Although it was difficult, although it took a long time, but Hansie did stand up.
It was amazing to see how he recovered. It was amazing. And just sad obviously the way that it ended, where he got himself back on an amazing road. And that for me was an indication of the kind of guy he was. I mean, people fall down often. Not many people get up as strong as he did, so yeah.
At the end of the day, all of us do things and things happen to us that we're ashamed of. And I think if we've got any understanding of Jesus Christ and the salvation that he offers us, I know that I'm going to meet him one day. I've got no doubt that he's gone to be with the Lord. Certainly the Hansie I knew, you know, and I've got no reason to believe that it wasn't the Hansie, the real Hansie. So I've got no doubt that his life had taken a dramatic change, and that I'll see him one day. Look forward to it.
And if you had to summarize Hansie in one sentence, how would you do it?
He was my husband, and he was my life. And I mean, there's so many things you can say about him, but to me, he was my husband.
From the time of the King Commission until Hansie's death, the willow tree he had claimed as his own as a 6-year-old at 246 Paul Kruger Avenue slowly withered and died. It still stands there, a memorial stump to a bold little boy who was once so full of enthusiasm and passion for an ancient game. As the willow died, a small Olyvenhout tree sprouted spontaneously from its trunk, lush and strong, bright green leaves thrusting boldly towards the sun.